We are ready now to listen to the words of the Holy Gospel, the good news of Jesus for us. Please stand and join me in the Gospel acclamation.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. John was standing with two of his disciples, and as he watched Jesus walk by, he said, "Behold the Lamb of God." And the two disciples heard what he had said and followed Jesus. And Jesus turned and saw them following him, and he said to them, "Well, what are you looking for?" And they said to him, "Rabbi," which translated means teacher, "where are you staying?" And he said to them, "Come, and you will see." And so they went and saw where Jesus was staying, and they stayed with him that day. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, was one of the two who heard John and followed Jesus. He first found his own brother Simon and told him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated Christ. Then he brought him to Jesus, and Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John, and you will be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Once in a while you hear of a story in the media about somebody finding a hidden treasure of some sort. For instance, once in a while you may recall stories like this where maybe some painting is found in somebody's attic, hidden away and kind of forgotten, kind of gathering dust up there because no one really saw the real value in that particular painting, or maybe handed down to them by some relative who died or whatever. And then as stories like that go on, by chance, somebody who's very knowledgeable about, let's say, paintings and art and so on, happens to see the picture and recognizes or suspects that it has real true value unnoticed so far. And then they put it to the test and find that it's certainly a painting of great price, much to the great joy of the owners, of course. And those are real things that happen sometimes, to recognize the value of things that sometimes go unnoticed. I'm not here to talk about art and architecture, anything like that, but just as a kind of a lead-in to speak about the intrinsic value that all of us have as human beings, and especially baptized human beings in a sense. We are all masterpieces, maybe hidden in a way, but nevertheless masterpieces. And sometimes the greatness within people often goes unnoticed and therefore unappreciated for various reasons. But our religion, our Christianity, urges us to be aware of a certain truth. And as expressed in today's second reading to St. Paul to the people of Corinth, where he says that we have been redeemed by Christ, his saving act, and therefore we are his adopted children of God. We are co-heirs to the kingdom of heaven, and in short, we are of immense value of that particular teaching is clearly stated in today's second reading, as I just said, about our redemption. Redemption means buying back with a certain value, of great value. Redemption, to be appreciated. And Paul says this, he says, you have been purchased or redeemed at a great price. And we know that that price was the saving act of Jesus Christ. And he says, therefore glorify God in your bodies, that is to act accordingly. And sometimes in life we maybe tend to lose track of this reality, and we fail to see both in ourselves and perhaps in other people as well that terrific majesty that is within all of us. And it is more tragic when this happens, and more tragic than not recognizing the value of a great work of art or something of great value. So Paul's point is very well made, that we are of immense value in God's eyes. And to say this is not just to be vain or practice vanity. It is not to act in pretense or have a huge ego. And it is to see this value also in other people. It's not just being flattery or flattering them or this act of hypocrisy, but simply the way it is. Very clear teaching of the church. And while not denying, of course, all of the human frailty and human weaknesses and so on, a little dust maybe gathers on us, like in a sense, as it does works of art, that it's a good time, it's good for once in a while to emphasize this truth, that we are of great value, especially maybe in times like this, maybe in the cold of winter in January when the dark days are cold and they can be very dark, long nights and short days. A time to really rejoice in the good news and the positive message that Jesus Christ gave to us, and Paul reminds us of, as he says further in that same reading of today, that God not only raised up Jesus, the Lord, but will also raise each of us up by his own power. And therefore, or simply because we have been purchased at a great price, we are of great value. And try to see that both in ourselves and in others as well. Let our light shine. And now go home and search your attics for real treasures. In the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.